Hello everyone and welcome back to another China admissions video. So in our previous video, we went over how to use the public transportation inside of Chinese cities. So we went over things like using the metro, using buses inside the cities, taxis, bicycles, etc. So in today's video, we're going to be doing the different types of public transportation that you can use in between Chinese cities. So using the high-speed train or using planes or buses as well. So we're going to be going over where you can buy these tickets and how you can use these different types of transportation. So first off, we're going to be covering air travel. Now, China is a very, very big country, and in other very big countries, usually people would resort to using planes in order to get around. And if you come from perhaps Europe, where flights are actually extremely cheap, you might be most comfortable with taking flights as well. But one thing that you do need to keep in mind is that the flights are very expensive within China, and there aren't as many options. While they do have a lot of different planes that are going, due to the restriction on certain airspaces, the flights can get quite expensive. So therefore, it's not the most cheap form of transportation. However, it might be most convenient, especially if you're traveling from the top of the country to the bottom of the country, because taking a train will then take you possibly a full day to get down. So for some people, that is just easier to take a plane. A couple of different websites that you can look for flights on is you can look on Skyscanner. Of course, you might already be very used to using Skyscanner. However, I would also just recommend to look on WeChat as well and on Qunar as well to book your flights. Now, on WeChat, this is for when you are already inside of China, you have a Chinese bank account linked to your WeChat account and you can pay through that. I've used them several times, not even just for booking flights within China, but for booking flights even from China to outside of China, for flying back to my home country and even to a couple of different countries nearby China. And sometimes I needed to make modifications to my flights, and the service was always really good and the prices were also very cheap. So if you are in China, I would recommend that you use WeChat and use the services, the WeChat mini program, to book your tickets. Also, you can use Qunar, which is also a Chinese website where you can book all sorts of different transportation. You can book buses, planes, trains, and you can even book for attractions and for hotels as well. So I would recommend that as well. Next we're going to cover is train travel. So for people that really like trains, going to China is going to be quite an exciting experience, because China is the country that is most connected by train, and you can really take a train from anywhere in the country to anywhere else in the country. It's very easy to maneuver and also relatively cheap as well. So if you're doing short trips, like for example a couple of hours with the bullet train, it's definitely the best option rather than booking a flight or a bus. It's the most comfortable option. So I would recommend doing that. You can also get sleeper trains. So that's something that some people like to do. They'll get a sleeper train. I studied in Shenzhen University, and some people like to take the sleeper train from Shenzhen to Shanghai. It's a very comfortable experience, and it's also really cheap compared to the flights as well. So you can do that, and you will leave about 8 p.m. and then you will arrive around 6 a.m. in Shanghai. So for some people that is worth it for them, but for others they might find that that's a bit difficult to do. And just keep in mind that there are different types of sleeper trains, and the cheaper ones are obviously going to be very different in quality. So you have some very comfortable options where you have very soft bedding that you can sleep on, and only 4 people in a compartment, and the compartments also close, and those are going to be some of your more expensive trains, your sleeper trains. Then you also get those that are hard mattresses, and there are 6 beds per compartment, and the compartment does not close. Those are going to be cheaper. Then you can also get a sleeper train where you just sit on a normal train seat. However, that is the cheapest option, and definitely if you're going to be there all night, it's definitely not very comfortable. I've taken a sleeper train before. I did a soft bed sleeper train and I was on it for 36 hours. I'm not someone that particularly likes to be on planes or trains for an extremely long period of time, so just keep that in mind, that it might make you very tired to do so. So just weigh out these different options. Again, you can buy this on your WeChat program, or you can buy this on qunar.com. Next, we're going to go over probably the cheapest option, which is to take a bus. Now, obviously, taking a bus for extremely long distance is not really recommended, especially in such a big country, and as a foreigner it's probably going to be very daunting to do so. However, in between cities that are next to each other, it really might be the most economic and easiest way of getting around. So for example, I was in Shenzhen, and if I wanted to go to, let's say, Zhongshan, which is a city close by, or if I wanted to go to Huizhou, which is another city close by, that's 2 hours by bus. So for me, that was the better option to do that, very economical. I did it several times and I didn't really have any issues with doing so. So in that way, I really don't mind taking the bus, and I would also recommend for other people to take the bus as well then. One thing that you do need to keep in mind is that it's not really easy to book bus trips very far in advance. Usually you could do so maybe a week in advance if you did it online. For me personally, I would just go to the bus station that I was going to go to, since they had regular buses that left every day, about every 50 minutes or an hour or so, and I would just book right there and then leave on the next available bus. Just keep in mind that if you're going to be traveling during peak holiday season, there might be a lot of people that are waiting to get on the buses, and this might mean that you might not be able to get a ticket. So just keep this in mind. The last one we're going to be talking about is ferries. Now, this is only really applicable if you live in a city that has a harbor and that has a ferry service, but a lot of you might have this option available. So I know that a lot of you have been applying to, for example, Guangzhou and Shenzhen and Zhuhai. So those are all coastal cities and they have a ferry service. So you can, for example, if you're going from Shenzhen, there are a couple of different cities that you can go to via ferry. You can go to Zhongshan, Zhuhai, you can go to Guangzhou, and you can also go to the Hong Kong International Terminal, so going straight to the airport, which is very convenient. It's also very convenient to fly into Hong Kong and just take the ferry across to Shenzhen or to Guangzhou or wherever you are going to. So this is very easy to book as well. It's obviously not going to be as cheap as taking a bus or something, but definitely you can do it. You can book this on qunar.com. You can also book this on your WeChat program, or you can do it right at the ferry terminal. I think a lot of people don't know what to expect from a ferry terminal, but it's very much like a mini airport terminal. Very clean, very modern, and you have a bunch of shops that are there as well to entertain yourself before your ferry leaves. And usually the ferry is about 30 minutes to an hour depending on the location that you're going to. I personally really like taking the ferry if I can do that instead of taking a bus that will take a couple of hours longer. So this does depend on your preference, and the price is going to be a little bit more expensive. However, I think it is very convenient, and as an experience I would definitely recommend it for everyone. Just keep in mind that if you're going to be taking a ferry, that sometimes the waves can be a bit big, and if you get very motion sick, like me for example, I would recommend getting some motion sickness tablets and taking that just before, maybe an hour or so before you are supposed to get onto the ferry. Now, you also need to be prepared. So you need to take your travel essentials. So this means that you need your identification documents. You will definitely need to have your passport on you. So make sure that you have that in a very safe place. I recommend having either a bag that's got a zipped up pocket that you can put it into. Some people have certain jackets that have an inner zip pocket that you can put it into and keep it there and keep it safe. Just make sure that you don't lose this. It's very difficult to be applying for another passport if you've lost it, and it is a very big hassle. So try not to lose your passport while you're going there, and definitely don't forget this at home. You won't be able to travel with just like a picture of your passport, but I do recommend just taking a picture of your passport's information page just in case you do lose your passport and you need it as a last resort of identification. I also recommend having scanned copies on your Google Drive or on your computer, or sent to someone that can then send it to you in case of an emergency. Then you need to make sure that you have your tickets on you. So I recommend that you either have it as a screenshot on your phone or you print it out on paper to show when you need to get onto the different modes of transportation. If you're going to be in China, then I recommend having it printed out in Chinese, as it cannot be guaranteed that the people that are helping you can speak English. And then just be sure to be respectful and understanding of local customs and etiquette during travel. Depending on which province you go to, there might be different customs and people with different cultures. So just try to be as respecting as possible. Thank you guys so much for joining the video today. I hope this was valuable information for you. And if you have any further tips or questions, please leave them in the comments down below. And please make sure to subscribe for more videos.